had joined Toastmasters about 9 years ago. It was with a corporate club. They used to meet at lunch. And I thought, as a salesperson, that would be something that would not only be useful for me to do, but it would be simple. It would be easy. I would practice my skills, hone my skills, maybe learn some new techniques. And when I came to do my first icebreaker, which all of you, or most of you in this room will remember, I had to read, because my mind went blank, what I had written the night before. The problem was, I couldn't read it. My hand was shaking so hard. Several years later, I was in front of a CIO, Chief Information Officer, for a New York bank in Manhattan. 10,000 people reported to him. I couldn't afford to have a piece of paper shaking in my hand. And I stood in front of him and chatted, connected, engaged him. I shared and collaborated with him about the problems he had that I could probably solve. And he invited me to another meeting thereafter. How did I do that? I owe it to Toastmasters. I took techniques and ideas that we were doing in Toastmasters, and I implemented them in how I was interacting with my customers. Agenda, knowing what it is that I wanted to share, listening and hearing what his concerns were, taking information that we had in our databases, and instead of doing a data dump, itemizing it in such a simple manner that he could glaze down very quickly and understand some of the issues. I owe that to Toastmasters. And what I found in Toastmasters to be the most effective, Shannon will say the second most effective tool in communication, is the evaluation. It's getting feedback, not only to my speeches, but to my leadership skills within the organization. And getting feedback outside and communicating around the water cooler about how the club is doing, about how we're doing, how can we improve things. I used all the little things that I was learning in Toastmasters and making myself a better salesperson, a better communicator, and someone who could stand with confidence in front of a CIO without having the handshake. And if we have positive evaluations, ones that people can grow with, not only serves to help the person who's speaking, but it helps the entire audience to grow and to learn and to share in the strengths that they see and they witness. Also, listening to our roundtable, as we listen tonight, you could hear perspectives from other people and share and learn what did they see that I didn't see in the strengths of the speaker. So evaluations are very powerful. That's a good evaluation. What happens if you have a bad evaluation? An evaluation that is superficial. One that maybe just glosses over what the speaker attempted to do. Leaves the speaker upset, saying, I didn't get anything out of that evaluation. I can't improve. I don't know what real effect I had. They told me I was great, but how am I going to get better? And worse, the audience becomes frustrated. They learn nothing from the experience to take away. So the mood in the club starts to decrease. The worst thing that can happen is if someone shares something negative, a criticism. And that can serve to work on that left part of the brain and start to say, reinforce those ideas that I'm not good enough, I can't ever be a good speaker, I'm not smart. And so we need to be cautious and conscious of the fact that evaluations are the most powerful tool for us to get better, individually as the speaker and as a club. So tonight we're going to hear from a panel. We're going to observe or to share with us their observations of evaluations from three perspectives. My three panelists who are up here tonight, Louis, Marilyn, and Andrew. Louis has been a Toastmaster for 9 years. He's achieved his AC Silver, and he's been an enthusiastic member of SFEET, speaking from experience, for 2 years, and last year he was our VP of Education. A couple of years ago, Louis won the District 60 Table Topics Contest, so he's bringing some very valuable observations. Most recently, he won our SFEET Holiday Party Slide Slam. It's a sophisticated party game that advanced Toastmasters play at holiday parties. So let's give Louis a round of applause. Andrew has been a Toastmaster for about 3.5 years. He has an AC Silver, CL, and he's been a member of SFEET for 2 years. Andrew owes a little bit of notoriety at SFEET to the fact that he went and tested all the advanced clubs and chose this one to join. So that's something special. He's also active in District 60 activities and is currently heading up a committee to explore advanced clubs and what they do and what their role and purpose is within the District 60. So a round of applause for Andrew. Marilyn has been a Toastmaster for 9 years. Is a member of several clubs in the past and is a CC. She has written a book called The Brutal Truth. And the book and her organization explores systemic problem of bullying in the workplace and the effects of bullying. So we're going to hear the sensitivity aspect from Marilyn's perspective. So this is our panel. Please welcome Marilyn now. And what we're going to do here this evening is we're going to hear a 4 or 5 minute speech from each of the panelists, and then I'm going to invite you to ask questions of the panelists so that we can discuss any ideas that you might have. And without any further ado, our first speaker is Louis. Louis will share his thoughts on what the difference the tone makes in an evaluation. The type of gestures, the body language that you approach the speaker with in your evaluation. We will explore this and other factors and how you can change your tone to become a more effective.
Typically when we give an evaluation, the response of the person being evaluated depends completely on the first gesture or tone you get from that person. Has anybody got problems getting advice from their parents? Anybody got that? Because the first thing you think is, oh, here we go again. And it's not only the gesture or the tone, it's sarcastic or it's lecturing the person. So if you're giving an evaluation to somebody and immediately they stand up and go, okay, yeah, for your speech, immediately the person being evaluated, probably the whole room becomes defensive. So when you come out, we always practice sandwich message. We have something positive, something growth point, something positive. So many times I see people start with the positive and they don't believe it. The words are there, it's not in their eyes, it's not in their body. Oh my God, it's not in the tone. Well, that was an amazing speech that you gave. And you're immediately thinking, yeah, no sincerity. I don't believe a word that's coming after. So if you're going to tell somebody that speech was amazing, tell them with your eyes, tell them with your body. Roman, that was an amazing introduction.
Thank you.
See, now he's listening, now he hears me. But if I go, yeah, that was an amazing introduction, but immediately Roman's going, oh, here we go, Louis. The tone that you have, the tone when you give the growth points is important. You're not telling them what is wrong, you're trying to point out something that could be improved. I like this, and if you got to genuinely like it, but it could be better. And they go, oh. But the person that goes, yeah, and then in the middle, Frank, you sort of did this, your accent was just, and you should fix that. Frank's going, what? Why? I'm not listening. But if I go, I like the way you did that, your accent might get in the way, but a pause, and I love it. Suddenly, you're getting that positivity on where you're going. And when you're doing a table topic, same thing. When you're giving a speech, when you're telling the story, when you're going to that C room, as Shannon was telling us, you've got to have that level of sincerity. And it's in your eyes, it's in your gestures, no negative gestures, no tones, no sitting there. It's in the vocal variety that you use. So I really encourage everybody, think not just about the content. We go in evaluation contests that come up, we're going to scribble down lots of things, but you've got to walk the walk. If you like it, if you're giving that, feel it, be sincere. You don't always have to give the solution, but at least believe it. When you're talking, they go, well, don't tell me what they think, but say, I had this feeling in the room. And you believe that I had a feeling. But if I say, well, you know, I had a sort of feeling in the room, you're not looking at people, nobody trusts you, because there's guests that come in to your club. They don't always know the backstory. Me and Shannon, we can be sarcastic with each other, but Joe just thinks I'm being right to Shannon. So be very sensitive to that, because you're not just giving feedback to the person, you're actually giving feedback to the whole group. And if there isn't that sincerity and the trust in your tone, in the gestures, and the way you present, the person might understand, but the rest of the room is probably never going to listen to you again, because you've got that sanctimonious air about you. So make sure that your delivery matches your content. And then it'll go away. It'll come over to the room so much better.
We refer to the glow and grow type of evaluations. And so we'd like to know, is there something else that we can add in the content that will help elevate our consciousness and sensitivity to the speaker? So with ideas about content, please welcome Andrew.
The words of a tongue should have 3 gatekeepers. Shannon's laughing. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? I mention that because to me there are characteristics of content that are very important. I want to mention 3 tonight. And I call them the 3 M's. Measured content, meaningful content, and motivational content. Is everyone familiar with the 10,000 hour rule?
Yes.
It's a rule that says if you practice something for 10,000 hours, you will become world class. To me, there's one word missing from that rule. Effective. You have to practice, you have to effectively practice for 10,000 hours before you become world class. And tonight I'd like to talk about effective content. So the first one that I mentioned was measured. When providing feedback or an evaluation, and it's any role, so it's not just to a speaker, we can talk about speech evaluation, but a general evaluator, for instance, in a club, can comment on any role that somebody's played within that club. So to me, an evaluation is for any role that somebody plays, whether it's in Toastmasters or even outside Toastmasters. But what I mean by measured is, you have to have a growth component to it, and a glow component to it. And typically it goes glow, growth, glow. So if I said to Louis, wow, what you just did with the tone, that was fantastic. One of the best tonal presentations I've ever seen. I can't think of anything that you could do better. It just wowed me. I'm looking forward to your next one.
Thank you.
It might make Louis feel great. But there's no balance to that feedback, that evaluation. It's not measured. If instead I said, Louis, I really enjoyed that presentation, and for the following reason, you gave some excellent examples around, you actually demonstrated the tonal position of the body. If you start off sort of, yeah, that was really, I really enjoyed your speech, the tone's all wrong. And I thought, given those examples, it was fantastic. One area that I found a little bit tricky was that you started off with a negative example, and then you went to a positive example. I think if you started with a positive example and made us all feel good at the beginning, then went to perhaps a negative example, and then finish up with a positive, it might have had a nice balance to it. And I think that would have been more impactful to me. So in that particular example, I've given effective content the sense that I've provided that what I really enjoyed, and perhaps an area that you could try next time that would be more impactful. So to me, that's what I mean by measured. Meaningful content. I have two items for meaningful. One is, it has to be specific. My example to Louis the first time was just too general. There was nothing there for him to understand what his strengths were, and I didn't give him any areas for growth. So it has to be the specific. So when I then gave my second example and talked about the fact that he actually positioned his body, it was a very specific example that he can then understand what I felt was good about his evaluation. The second characteristic to me of a meaningful evaluation is that it needs to be looking forward. It goes to that positive story. So rather than saying to a speaker, wow, you really clutched that lecture when he spoke, it really distracted me. If instead I said, rather than dwell on the past, but look to the forward and said, next time, there will be more impact to me with your message if you perhaps raise your arms a little bit, have some gestures. So you're looking forward to saying, do something with your arms that's different, but you're not dwelling on the fact that they were doing something that distracted you. So it's looking forward, it's that positive aspect. The last aspect is motivational. So to me, content needs to be motivational. And there's two questions you can always ask yourself when evaluating. And I'll use the speaker as an example, does the speaker walk away feeling good? Because to be motivated, you have to feel good. To me, anyway. I have to feel good to be motivated. The second one is, have I been told, do I know, based on the evaluation, what I need to do to improve for next time? So it's always two parts for me. Feeling good, yes, but I have to have some substance. I have to know what I need to do next time to become even better. And to me, that's very motivational. So effective content to me is measured, meaningful, motivational. And going back to the emotional side of things, I'll leave with another quote. It takes 11 positive statements to erase one negative statement.
Our next speaker is Marilyn. She'll be speaking about sensitivity. Marilyn is rather new to our club. Was only given one speech and experienced one entire round table, the sweet style. Typically you do your 7-minute, or in your case I think it was a 12, 15-minute speech, and then you get about a half an hour of evaluations from everybody in the room. That's how we do our round tables. Look, Marilyn is sensitive, and she fears, she's intimidated of public speaking. It's not that she fears standing in front of people. It's that she has PSTD, post-traumatic syndrome, and it's based on experiences from her youth. And so we're going to hear what it's like to feel that fear and how that evaluation is important to understand the tone in order for her to improve, to feel good about herself, to move forward. And the good news is that even after that round table, Marilyn is still here.
Thank you, Roman. Hello, everyone. I will be speaking briefly on sensitivity. Sensitivity plays a humongous role in public speaking and in particular evaluations. Sensitivity is the ability to respond to external stimulus. It also refers to the strength of the response. Sensitivity is also an aspect of emotional intelligence, also known as EQ. It's important to have a definition. I'll be using Daniel Goleman's 1995, it became quite popular from his 1995 book, Emotional Intelligence. It's good to use, but it's a little long. Emotional intelligence is the ability to monitor one's own and other people's emotions, to discriminate different emotions and label them appropriately, and to use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior. EQ is not to be confused with IQ or personality, which are hardwired. And this is the great thing. You can develop your EQ, and we can improve. It's important to have awareness and understanding of people's feelings. This is particularly true in giving evaluations. There are general problems we all struggle with in public speaking. It's very much known as a source of fear and anxiety. The fear is called glossophobia. Studies say more people are scared of giving a speech than they are of dying. It puts self-esteem and self-image at risk. People fear looking foolish and being a failure, as it might lead to loss of income, status, or position. Individuals have different levels of sensitivity. You might say you fall somewhere along a continuum. In my case, I have post-traumatic stress disorder. Big surprise, you ruined it. This brings forth different and extreme symptoms, not just for public speaking, but all walks of life. I have different aspects of it coming out. However, the triggers lie right within speaking. So managing and overcoming is extremely hard. For example, I have a problem with my memory, retrieving information. Cards. Everyone has their roadblocks and hindrances in life. And we just don't always know the details. For example, there is the shy introvert who, the cold, calm, collected type, whose insides are in fact churning. And there are very many famous people who have fear of speaking. My favorite example is King George VI, the Queen's father. He developed a stutter from childhood abuse, and with the support and training from Lionel, managed to be able to speak to his country and to the world. I suggest you watch the movie The King's Speech. It shows just how challenging overcoming this problem is, as well as how important support is. Yes, the role of the evaluator is very important. It's a role of support. So one should be demonstrating a listening that conveys mutual understanding, respect, and trust. Also recognize individuals in situations that might be more sensitive than another. An example of that is the first-time speaker. Additional support might be given by talking to the person afterwards to see if anything might have been done differently. There are very many ways to be mindful. In fact, you just heard quite a few from Andrew and Louie when they talk content and tone. There are a few things a speaker can do as well to help manage through, but I will have to leave that for another day. I am sincerely grateful for my opportunity to speak here, as well as the incredible support I get from my SPEAK members. It shows up in so many ways. I realize I will stumble along the way, but I know with the support, sensitivity, and understanding that I will become a confident speaker. And remember, how you use sensitivity positively inside the club, you can use outside as well. Sensitivity is about connecting with people. Thank you.